What is this, 4? Are we on 4?
Episode
One of those.
17, episode 4 this season.
Okay. You guys ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
We're rolling.
All right. I'll give a little 3, 2, 1. All right, and I'll bring it in.
We don't even need the 3, 2, 1. Whenever I hit record, it just uploads straight to YouTube. So this is all going to be in it right now.
Oh, okay.
Nice. Okay.
All right. Well, episode 4, who'd you say 17, Stuart, of
This is episode
TRC?
17. Yeah.
Yes, sir. We have made it back. We have made it to the actual playoffs, fellas. This is now set in stone. And exciting stuff. Got the first home games. Pretty exciting stuff here. First one to kick it off is going to be Notre Dame hosting Indiana. Little in-state battle. We'll go through all the rest of the games. The next game, Stu went ghost. The next game is
had some dry eyes. I was throwing some
It disappeared out of nowhere. Okay, wait. This is a little bit. This is a chaotic start. I actually want to start the show. Yeah, I want to start the show with something that I was just sent via SMS text message from somebody that I work with, who you both actually know. And it's on brand because it has to do with the Lions and has to do with the Philadelphia Eagles. And so, as we all know, last week was on Sunday was maybe not the Lions' best win. And the injuries have piled up, and it seems like the sky has fallen. And there have been some fans as of late, specifically on the East Coast, potentially in Philadelphia, who the word fraud has been tossed around, and they think they're the big shit these days, which is fine. You can think that. But, you know, my coworker, I'll call him for right now, his name is Charlie Block, and he has been a big advocate since really week 3. Every weekend saying, you know, I think if the Eagles and Lions match up in the playoffs, the Eagles will beat the Lions. And just because, you know, all he watches are the Eagles and he doesn't watch anybody else. He just sent me a tweet, and it was most players on the PUP/IR list. And the Lions were first at 22. Next closest was someone at 15. I was like, wow, that's a big step forward for him for pointing that out. And then the following tweet was a Philadelphia fan who said, and aren't the Lions the team with the most 50-point games? I bet you Dano wasn't sitting those guys in the 4th. Makes you wonder. And so he followed it up with that. And I said, well, the team with the least amount of injuries, second highest scoring team also is the Buffalo Bills. And I said, how does that math add up? How does that relate to that tweet? And he just said, interesting. Doesn't have to do a lot with the playoff committee, but all around pretty stupid. And I wanted to point out the fact that Charlie Block, I'm speaking to you. I'm done with your stupid Philly tweets. They're dumb and make you look like an idiot.
Yeah, blockhead, one might say. Yes.
Yeah.
That was needed.
And I would agree. I would say that was very I think you owned him, Dak, in that exchange.
I wouldn't say owed him. I just think both tweets were stupid to be sent to begin with.
Right.
And that's the point to be made. More so.
That was needed, I think. That was a good way to start it. The Lions very, very injured, but who knows? You know what I mean? When the next 3 games get the bye and it all comes through Detroit and Hutch ball might – Stu, you've been trying to show this. It's been
I'm going to show this off. Probably tough to see. Whatever. It's Christmas sweater for the Lions. Yeah. It's just one before I die. We were saying after that game, because it came in the mail right after that game against the Bills, it definitely hits a little harder after that.
There you go. Yeah, I like it. Destiny. Yeah, who knows? I mean, hey, Dan Campbell's interview was electric. You got to get the fellas juiced up. Chicago.
One would say high octane.
High octane. Yeah, that's I'd use that, and I think that they can and will win out, and I think we will be the 1 seed. That's all that matters. And then Hutch will make his appearance in the Super Bowl.
And the best way, I think,
Hutch on Taylor Lautner's podcast.
Yeah, that was really funny. When his mom
was honestly pretty cool.
When he did his mom's voice too, he was like, my mom was asking me like, but Aiden, what if you don't make it back? And he gave the classic, there's no other way. He was like,
if he comes back in the lines when the Super Bowl,
he said he's coming back no matter what.
There is going to be a either Disney Plus or Hallmark movie about that.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah,
I think that's guaranteed going to happen. But yeah, no, exciting stuff. I think, hey, let's not overreact. Everybody's, what did Dan Campbell say? We've been eating filet. And after you lose one, after you win 11 in a row against the Buffalo Bills, who pretty damn good team, the sky's not falling.
They only lost by 6 too.
They still put up 42 points. Yeah, I'm not too worried. The offense will be all right. But yeah, no, thank you for bringing that up, Dakbot. Appreciate that. Philly fans need to be exposed because they're all creaming their jeans right now, and they need to pipe it down because it's still our. If we went out, like I said, we still get the 1 seed. They lost to 2.
And I think you've made it to the top of sports when all of Philadelphia, that whole city doesn't really like you. Per se, Boston Celtics, Philly hates them. Mm-hmm. You could also say San Francisco. That was a big deal for them as well. Right. And then whenever Philly fans get the chance to bring in injuries into the mix, and either it's your fault that your players are getting injured or injuries don't matter, that's how you really, really know you made it. Oh, yeah. And so, Lions are in a great spot. We're just fine.
We'll be all right. I think they're going to be just fine. We'll get back to this. So the first game, fellas,
one last thing about Lions before we transition here.
Yeah.
We threw around if they go to the Super Bowl. Might be a once in a lifetime thing. We might have to go, being so close to Louisiana. Are we still thinking that potentially?
For sure, going to New Orleans. Ticket to the game, I think that's a pretty penny. Probably not happening.
Not my budget currently, I'll be honest. No. But maybe New Orleans.
But a trip to New Orleans, hands down for sure going. Like that's
have to go. I think we might have to send that. I'm not anti by any means. Little drive down to NOLA.
I think for the sake of TRC, yeah.
We probably should for the sake of the show, TRC. Do you want to move on to this, fellas? We'll get into the
let's talk a little here. college ball.
All right, so first game, like I mentioned earlier, is going to be the Battle of Indiana. I believe the spread. They're all about a touchdown or more for all these games. I think the biggest one is going to be Texas Clemson. Could be wrong there. Maybe it's Penn State SMU. I believe that's about 10. And I know Clemson, Texas is about 11.5. But that's an interesting game. Night game. ESPN is going to be at South Bend for the first time in forever. It's I think since the 70s or something crazy like that. Because NBC maybe it's late early 90s actually. I think it might be 90 or 91. But they actually have a home ESPN game because they're in bed with NBC. But yeah, no, this will be interesting. I actually think if there is one upset I would pick, I think I'd go this one. I just don't, again, we don't really fully know what Indiana is. I know they didn't look good against Ohio State, but it could be electric. You guys got any feeling there with that game? First one?
I'm rooting for Indiana for sure.
Yeah.
I hope that they can do it. Cignetti's a good coach. Obviously Freeman is also a very good coach, but team-wise,
he signed an extension. No Bears anymore. There's a little Bears talk. He just signed.
He did.
Yes,
I didn't see that.
Cignetti did or Marcus Freeman?
Freeman.
Gotcha.
Yeah, Cignetti did as well, but earlier in the season.
Right.
I think this is of the first round games. This is probably the one. Tennessee, Ohio State will be a good game, but I'm honestly most excited for Notre Dame, Indiana. Obviously, it's same state, that sort of rivalry, and both fan bases are kind of going at it. But watching both teams, they've had kind of a similar season, to be completely honest. And I think it's going to be a good game. Do you guys know what the spread is?
I think this one's like 8 or something along those lines. I'll get them in front of me right here, actually.
I'd take Indiana to cover for sure. Tickets are crazy expensive.
That's the most expensive ticket.
I can't believe Gashi's dad is going.
Mitch Gashi, the OG, is going. Yes.
Yeah.
That's sitting crazy. That's sitting at about now 7.5 in some books for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish.
So it's about the same as Ohio State, Tennessee.
Ohio State, Tennessee is at 7.5.
Yeah.
We'll get into these games obviously a little bit later. 8.5 for Penn State at home against SMU, and Texas is up to 12. That is the largest spread.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's going to be interesting. Indiana has played in a bigger game than what Notre Dame has played in. That Indiana-Ohio State game was huge. Notre Dame, their best win is probably, I think they beat Louisville and they beat Army. Those are like two of
the first game
wins.
against A&M on the road probably is their best
First
win.
game against A&M on the road. Yeah, A&M's just not ranked anymore. But yeah, that's true. But Indiana, in most of their wins, they've looked better just against lesser opponents, obviously. And so we'll see how prepared they are. But I would take Indiana to cover all day. And I hope they win, truthfully. I think that would be awesome. That'd be great to see.
Yeah. I'm definitely pulling for Indiana as well. I honestly don't think they'll win. Gun to the head, I'm going Notre Dame win. But I don't know. Like, they lost to Northern Illinois, and yeah, that was at the beginning of the year. But I feel like Notre Dame's just always one of those teams that you never know what you're going to get from them in a game. So it could be interesting for sure. And I also think Indiana will cover too. But just looking at, honestly, this is the first time it's really sinking in just how awesome these 4 matchups are for the first round.
Yeah. Most of them, obviously, 3 of the 4 are going to be cold. I believe every game is going to be in the 20s, from South Bend to Penn, to Happy Valley to then to Columbus, and then here in Austin, it's going to be like 65, which is what we get. But yeah, I mean, I could see Notre Dame kind of going away with this, but I also could see it being a close game. We'll see. I just don't. Again, it's still hard to judge what Indiana is because the one legitimate team they played, it feels like, they got whomped by. But I do think that Notre Dame's different than like a team. Ohio State just has grown ass men on that team, and so Indiana just hasn't played anyone like that. But we'll see. Who knows? I mean,
yeah,
I know
you never really know what you're going to get to because I mean, obviously, way different game, but Michigan beat Ohio State in the shoe when Indiana got whomped, and Indiana beat Michigan. So it's going to be crazy.
Wait, who? Yeah. What? Michigan beat who? They beat Ohio State.
Michigan beat Ohio State in the shoe, yeah. And Indiana got whomped, but then Indiana beat Michigan. So I was just saying, you never know.
They did
with Indiana and Notre Dame.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting. One thing that I can say, gun to my head, no matter who wins this game, I think they get shellacked next round against Georgia.
I was thinking that as well, yeah.
Even if it's Notre Dame, I think they get Kirby Smart with time to prepare. He's already prepping for both teams, I'm sure. I think they'll get creamed. This is where Kirby Smart thrives, and so that's my take.
I don't know if I think Notre Dame would get creamed. To be honest, that's me. I don't think they'd get creamed.
They've done it before. That's my only thing. Is Notre Dame's done it before in the 4-team playoff, where I get it. This was under Brian Kelly, not under Marcus Freeman, and so different head coach, different guy at the helm. But I think it was 2018 and 2020, and then obviously the 2011 national championship. And I think they got smoked in all of them. I don't think any of course, the national championship with Bama and Notre Dame, they got destroyed. But I remember, I think they got destroyed in the 2021 against, I think it was Alabama again. I think it was Alabama. And so I don't know. They've been in these situations before and against big time teams like Georgia is. And I know they're 10-2. I feel like they've just gotten smoked in the past. And so
all under BCals.
This might be a hot.
All under. I know it is all under BCals.
Aside from you being the BCals man, like that's a whole different product.
It's different.
It's a different product. But I personally think I think this might be a hot take. I think Indiana would put up more points on Georgia, to be honest, than Notre Dame would. I mean, the margin of victory might be closer with Notre Dame, but I think like Indiana's probably, I think, combined with garbage time and everything, because I think they'd get whomped by Georgia too. I could see them putting up like 21. I feel like if Notre Dame plays Georgia, it's going to be like a 30-something to like 14 game, or like 13 even. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see with the Notre Dame, Indiana. That game fascinates me. It'll be a cool night game. I'm excited to see it. We'll move on to Penn State, SMU. That's the first game. That's the noon game. They're on TNT and Max, formerly known as HBO. Fascinating that these two games are on there. I don't really know who's doing the call for either of these games, but the fact it's on TNT will be a little strange. And note this with all these games, this is for note, the home games are not controlled by the, ops team for Ohio State, Notre Dame, Penn State, and Texas. It's the NCAA. It's supposed to technically, it's not obviously a neutral site, but they're not going to have, all the, pump up music. It's not going to be exactly like that. It's going to be like what a bowl game would be, a neutral game. So that's controlled by the schools that are hosting. A little bit different. Especially like an SEC, which I guess the only real team that is Texas, even though they're not fully SEC yet in my eyes when it comes to like a home atmosphere. A Tennessee would be that, but none of them are only a home game. All the home games aren't like atmospheres where that, like they were talking about it on Part of My Take today with Kirk Herbstreit. And we know this, especially you, Dak, going to SEC games, like the time frame when there's timeouts, TV timeouts, they're not, they did a reference to, well, it's the, I believe there's like the 1970, what was it? Fencing team is here. Let's stand up and honor them, which we've seen at Michigan games for years. Whereas a place like LSU, no, they're getting rowdy. Hey, suck that tag, dick, bitch. They're playing music and keeping rowdy. And so that'll be a little bit eliminated. Obviously, none of these teams really do that anyway.
So you think Texas won't be like shooting off the cannons?
Not that they won't be shooting off the cannons. It's more going to be with the boarding, for like what's on the screen is what I believe.
Gotcha. So like the sign.
It's not going to be the Bebo coming at you and like doing all that. No,
and I think it is the music too, and like some of the other like pregame stuff. I don't remember.
Yeah, it's a little different. I mean, it's the first time. We don't really fully know, but it's going to be a little different than a normal home game for these teams.
And I think that's kind of dumb, in my opinion. I think it's
I don't really get
it's very dumb, honestly. Yeah. It eliminates the whole point of even having them be home playoff games.
And like the first thing that comes to my mind, and I don't know if this would be a factor or not, but it is like you go to Happy Valley, and it was when Michigan went there and they had to call their first time out because everybody got rowdy as shit. And they all started playing Mo Bamba. Same thing at Texas State.
None of that.
Like exactly. If you're not getting, because that is like obviously Baton Rouge crowd goes crazy at all times. Like the minute they pile into the stadium, like everybody's going nuts, especially as the game's going. A very key factor though is like when you get people singing "Call it Baton Rouge," like that's when it blows up and it creates like this different atmosphere. And the bands, I'd imagine the bands, like that's still the same though.
You don't have the
obviously because you get that at bowl games.
Exactly.
Yes, you get at bowl games.
Essentially, what the bowl game would be, Stu, is like for reference. I think that's what's going to mimic.
But you get home fans,
right? Obviously, it's a home still pretty much a home atmosphere, mostly home fans.
But the music, that's a big part of it. Music they play in the stadium, gets everybody in. Yeah.
So this game will be interesting. It's not a night game, which I think hurts for sure Penn State. I know it does. SMU coming in, did not win the ACC, but still gets in. And I think they do, rightfully so, from the format and how they presented and how it was going to go. I have my own qualms with how this is. Do I think Boise State, as much as I'm rooting for them, and Arizona State deserve the 3-4? No, I don't. But that's we could talk about that another day. I think that's just a format issue. I don't think we should be giving. I think automatic bids should happen. So you win your conference championship for sure. But I don't think just because you win your conference championship and maybe you had an easier road than a lot of these other teams that you should be getting 3-4. No, they should just be in the playoffs and not a bye. That's because the Mountain West just is not the third best conference. That's how I look.
Well, so you and I 100% agree on this. I said I'm all for the auto bids. You should have some sort of reward for winning your conference, and not every conference is built the same. And so for winning your conference, there should be a reward. No auto buys, no auto seeding. That shouldn't be a thing because now they've created this situation where Penn State is actually in a favorable spot,
and same with Texas.
And Texas is in a favorable spot. You know who's not in a favorable spot? Oregon.
Number one team in the country who's undefeated getting shafted as well. Yes,
because Ohio State and Tennessee got shifted back for two teams that were behind them. And so I'm all for the auto bid. There should be no auto buy. It should be 1-4, get a buy. I'm for the buys. Like I think that's okay, obviously. But the auto buy for winning your conference, that shouldn't be a thing because that essentially means
Oregon's the team with the toughest draw out of all the teams with buys.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. It's. I would say so. Yeah, probably.
I would say so because there's a good chance there's a good chance they play Ohio State.
Georgia's the second hardest.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. I mean, Oregon's going to have to play Ohio State, call it, and then you go play Texas.
They got to figure out a way where they can flip that, dude, where it's like it should be Arizona State and Boise State should be having to play the winners of the matchups for.
Well, we can get into this obviously at another time, but one thing that I thought would maybe be interesting would be, and they do this in the NFL, right? It's not a bracket format, but it's the top seed automatically plays the lowest seed.
Yes.
So you're rewarded to get the top seed. It doesn't necessarily need to be a bracket like how it is in March Madness. It should be top. Yeah. Your reward is if a 12 seed wins, you get the 12 seed.
Correct.
That's what.
Or they should just reseed after the first round.
That's what. Yes, exactly. That's what.
Essentially, what it is. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Like, there's no reason that Oregon should be playing against Ohio State and Tennessee. They went undefeated. They won their conference championship, and they are getting an extremely tough draw. And I feel for Oregon, but battle tested. I guess we'll see what they can do. But teams like Texas and teams like Penn State are the ones that are sitting here pretty because look at them. I mean, again. Texas and Penn State, this is what the committee said and why they're at that spot. They didn't get faulted for making their conference championship. And that's why I think they emphasize the conference championship itself too much. Penn State played the school of the blind. They didn't play anyone. They didn't play Oregon. They played Ohio State and lost at the crib, and they didn't even play Indiana. Like the top teams in the Big Ten, they did not play other than Ohio State, and they lost. And yet they're sitting here and getting rewarded. Oh, good job. You beat Illinois, and you made it out of Wisconsin alive. Like,
yeah,
sick, dude. And now you get to go play the two, schools with horses. Like I that's to me ridiculous. And that's
I'm worried with it set up this way too, that it's going to give us like a ton more of the matchups, like when we had Georgia and TCU.
Well, Georgia TCU. You will get those. Like that's a situation that you're going to get in because like there will be some years where let's say you still have that Georgia team who is number one. There would be years where they go play, in their first round, they play a team like TCU, who's like the 11 seed, and they have a first round upset. What could have been like a great matchup of Georgia, Notre Dame, TCU somehow upsets them, and then Georgia creams TCU. I think in some years you would get that. A year like this, probably not, unless you have crazy upsets like you go SMU beats Penn State, Boise beats them, and then you go play Georgia and Oregon and see what happens. But
all it takes is like one team to boof, and that's literally what happened with Michigan and TCU. Like Michigan was for sure the better team. They just did literally dumbass shit against them, and that's why they lost.
Like you look at
probably also would have got rocked by Georgia in the Natty though.
For sure, that Georgia team was disgusting. I think. With the bracket and everything that the committee, has done so far, they continually back themselves into situations that they just shouldn't be in. The auto buy backed yourself into a spot that I understand. You did not expect this. You expected to have Oregon 1, let's call it Georgia 2, Miami sitting there pretty at your 3 spot. And then, a Big 12 team like Utah made it out there, and that's your 4 spot. They didn't expect this, but they backed themselves into it and said the 4 conference champions get the auto bid. So you screwed yourself there. And then you backed yourself into another position where you made a definitive statement. The leader of the committee, Ward Manuel, said, we're not going to fault you for a conference championship loss, for making your conference championship. That didn't necessarily need to be said. But once they did that, then you don't give yourself really any wiggle room in terms of how you want to lay teams out.
Right.
You didn't have to do any of that. You could have said, hey, folks, you've been clamoring for more playoff teams. Here's 12. We're going to rank them, and that's what you get. And you probably would have been just better off doing that. But it's the NCAA, so they always do too much.
All right. Yeah.
We got
Let's run through these last 3 games. We got 13 minutes or 14 minutes until we got to bounce for our volleyball game.
Shoot. Okay.
I was just going to say you got 1, 2, 9, and 12 as your buys. That makes no sense to me. Penn State, SMU, can go into that. The spread, like I said, I believe is, 7.5, boys, 8.5 now. I don't think SMU is good enough to beat them. I don't. And I like SMU, and we can say the Penn State stuff all we want. I just don't think they're as talented. I'll give Penn State some flowers. They showed some life and actually played pretty well and could score against Oregon. Now, is Oregon's defense the best in the country? No, especially their run defense. I just don't think SMU's going to be good enough to beat them. Could they? Sure. But I'd feel more confident in other spot than that.
I agree. Do you think that Boise could potentially beat them next round?
Penn State? Better chance. Yeah, I do. I think there's a better chance, especially when you're getting away from the crib and more expectations are, you're kind of – I think, James Franklin's team's a little more, all right, we made it past that. Then I think Ashton Genty's going to have a day. No matter who they play, he'll have a day. He's that talented.
Yeah, I agree. And I have a feeling I've been waiting for it. I think for that game specifically, they know that Penn State's just going to stack the shit out of the box and make it as difficult on Genty as they can. I think they're going to pull out a little Oklahoma Fiesta Bowl and have a few trick plays up their sleeve, like prepped and ready to go. A little Statue of Liberty action. And so I think they have a better shot, but it just sucks that Penn State got this draw. But
lucky, right. Stu, what do you got on that game? Anything?
What was the spread again?
8.5.
All right. I'm gonna be the odd man out here. This is solely on gut feeling. And just James Franklin is a fraud factor.
I'm going. Are you picking SMU?
I'm taking SMU.
Okay. This will be funny because this will be the one that we laugh at, and then they're going to somehow.
No, I've been the guy who's been the SMU advocate.
You have been. Yeah.
I have a prior. I said they could make the ACC championship. They did it. They made it to the playoffs too. So,
yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't be shocked. Penn State, this is what they do. They lose in big games. I just think from a talent standpoint, the matchup's tough for them. That's all. I'm not.
No, I fully agree with that. Like, I see Penn State should be the favorite. Like, they definitely should be. But I don't know. I just think we're gonna get. The gut feeling is telling me James Franklin is not going to get a playoff win on his resume this year.
We'll go over to our game here in town, Austin versus Clemson. Very intriguing matchup. That is the highest spread at 12. Cade Klubnik coming back to town. He actually was on the team with a lot of these guys, including the stud Michael Taft. I was able to talk to. It was really cool. We got to talk to Coach Todd Dodge, who was the former coach of the Chaps of Westlake, and so he was the head coach them on air, which was really cool. But we can maybe link that. I don't know, Stu. I got a Spotify. I can send you. We can link.
That's
that.
Cool. That's awesome.
It was awesome. Really cool.
Yeah,
and he used to coach his son coaches Southlake Carroll, where Quinn's from. Those guys played against each other in high school, actually, and Cade Klubnik
state championship, right?
Right. They lost to Westlake here in town, so Cade Klubnik had the win over there. Impressive what they done at the end of the year, but again, this is a team that has losses against good teams, including obviously got whomped by Georgia in the beginning of the year. They lost to South Carolina at home. They eked out this win, although they're up by a lot on SMU, but only ended up winning, I believe, by 3 in a last-second field goal. I do like Texas here at home. I do think Clemson's an interesting matchup for sure. I've dug into them because I've had to for the show's sake. They have this kid, Antonio Williams, stud receiver. Maffa's pretty good as a running back as well, but they can get exposed with how many great receivers that Texas has. If Quinn plays a decent game, I think they're going to use Arch Manning a lot more. Maybe they didn't want to show that package that we saw them do a little bit with Texas A&M. They only brought him in for 2 plays, one being in overtime in the SEC championship. But this game, I'm going to go Texas probably by about 10. I won't take the 8-12. I think that's a little over the top. I think Clemson's been there, done that with Dabo. They've been experienced. First time they've ever matched up, too, which is pretty cool. But I'll take Texas at home.
Yeah, I think you brought it up there at the end, just the Dabo been there, done that. I think I would take, if it was a regular season game, I would take Texas to cover all day. Mm-hmm. And I feel like Clemson, they put together the same team really since Trevor Lawrence left, where it's just these 8-4, 9-3 teams who kind of pick it up towards the end of the year. They look awful at the start of the year and then pick it up towards the end. SMU was their first top 25 win. I think they had lost to all the other top 25 teams they had played. It is interesting just because Dabo has been to the playoffs before, but he's consistently outgunned. Now, did you guys know that? So they just got a transfer guy who on defense, that was the first ever defensive player they've gotten through the transfer portal under Dabo Sweeney. First ever. Yeah, that's crazy.
He doesn't need
Yeah, that's crazy. And so I still think Texas, their defense is disgusting. They're outgunned, outmanned. Quinn just has to play an average game, and they'll take care of business, win by double digits. And so I'm taking Texas too. It's interesting with Dabo in the playoffs, obviously, but Texas is they're that much better.
Yeah, they're playing with house money. Clemson is.
Yeah,
I'm taking Texas also, but I'm gonna go close game. I don't even know what the spread is, but I'm gonna take Clemson to cover
12.
Okay, yeah, I'll definitely take them to cover that. I think it's gonna be a close game. I think Dabo's just, and it's mainly I just think it's gonna be experience from Dabo coaching in the playoff before versus Sark. He's got one shot at it against Washington. I think Texas is still gonna win, but I think they'll probably win by like maybe a field goal or a touchdown.
Yeah, that one's interesting. I mean, like you said, they've been there. But Cade Klubnik, he's been playing pretty good ball. He's been impressive. Last one we'll go to, very interesting. Stu, I want to hear you first. The Ohio State, the
I do.
The hater of all haters. And I'm a hater too, obviously, as a Michigan fan. But you take over the one on this game. What do you got in this?
Do you know what the spread for this one is?
Yeah, 7.5.
Yeah.
This one's 7.5. Okay. Yeah, so I mean, this one honestly is the one I probably feel the least confident about in my pick because I truly think this could go either way. I think if Ohio State does win, they're probably smoking Tennessee. Like I don't think it's gonna be a close game if Ohio State wins because they could just come out with some different energy after debatably most embarrassing loss in program history. Tennessee, though, I haven't watched a ton of Tennessee this year. I mean, I know a little bit about Nico. Hasn't Nico been pretty like up and down this season?
Yeah, he's been all right. What I've seen with them, and I to be honest, I haven't watched them a bunch. But what with them, they use their athletes, and they just try to, there's a lot of they're really wide set, so they're just trying to make a lot of space for their athletes to perform. And that's the thing; they can beat lesser opponents. But when a team's just as good, if not has the same, if not better athletes, that's where I'm going to go. Okay, I don't think that their offense and what Josh is doing over there is really going to really work. I'll go Ohio State. I think they're actually going to beat the shit out of them. I do. I think this is their just. I mean,
I'm going to take Ohio State as well. I'm thinking like 42-21 game is like what the gut is telling me. I think they're going to beat them pretty bad.
I do. I really do. Especially at home. If this was in Tennessee, different. But from what happened, how gross that was, how much they've just been sitting on that, it's like they can still go win a championship. They got the guys to do it before they lost to Michigan.
Their defense is so good. Their defense is really, really good too. Ohio State. Do what you want. I mean, the offense, they got guys obviously, but the defense and their defensive coordinator. What's his name? Not Brian Hartline. Jim Knowles, is that his name?
Yes, Jim Knowles.
I honestly think if you're a Buckeye fan, you probably have the most faith in him on your coaching staff out of everyone between him, Chip Kelly, and Ryan Day. So their defense is good. If Tennessee's offense is nasty and they got athletes, I think Ohio State's defense is probably just the edge at the end of the day. So I would take Ohio State too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. I would do the same. Tennessee, they've beaten up on really bad teams. Their one big win is Alabama.
Right.
And it was at home, and they just kind of weirdly have their number with that right now, and it's not the same Alabama team anymore. We talked about it on the last show that we did. The only way Ohio State can redeem a loss to Michigan, though the loss that they just had, is not beating them next year, but it's winning a national championship. They still have the guys to do it. As much as I hate Ryan Day, the one place where I will give him credit is when he's had time to prepare. So that Rose Bowl against Utah, that playoff game against Georgia, the first playoff that he did, where he beat Clemson and then lost to Alabama, his offenses specifically have looked way different and very good. And his quarterbacks have taken a huge step forward. Like that happened with Stroud. And that was the first time Stroud against Georgia looked like for real, like very, very legit NFL quarterback. And so he's done well with time to prepare. I got to give him credit there. And so,
well, I would just say this like perfect amount of time, not even a long amount of time, because according to him, he prepares for Michigan all year long. And
he over prepares. Really.
Yeah, he always prepares.
So far back with over preparing.
Well, I actually believe that. Yeah, he probably does. And so and he over prepares. But in terms of rest of the playoffs, I don't know. We'll see. But I'm taking him over Tennessee for sure.
Yeah. So I'm going chalk, boys, just to wrap it up. I went, as boring as it is, I'm going Notre Dame. I'm going Penn State. I'm going Texas. I'm going Ohio State.
I am going Indiana. I'm going Penn State. I'm going Texas, and then Ohio State.
You're taking Indiana?
I'm gonna take Indiana. Mix it up. Yeah.
All right. I like it. I'm taking Notre Dame, but I do think that's gonna be a really good game. And then I'm gonna take SMU. That's my wild card. Texas and Ohio State.
There you go. All right, boys. Well, that'll be exciting. We'll be able to talk about it and then figure out the locations. I believe that's the Rose Bowl. It'll be the Sugar Bowl for that Notre Dame Indiana matchup. It'll be the Fiesta Bowl, I believe. Maybe not. Maybe that's the Peach Bowl, actually. No, the Peach Bowl is actually going to be Texas versus
Arizona State.
And I do believe it is the Fiesta Bowl for Boise State, which is kind of sweet.
That's awesome. That's so cool. Dang.
I'll have to double check that, but I think that's how it lands.
And last thing, so Georgia, Carson Beck is not playing in the Sugar Bowl. Not playing. Right?
Nope.
Could be good.
Wow.
Could be for the best.
Could be good. Could be good.
Yeah.
I will say, too, I saw on Twitter this week that Tennessee fans were saying F planting the flag. If we beat Ohio State, we're tearing down their goalposts.
Yep.
So we'll see what happens there if that ends up being the case or not.
That would be awesome. I'd love to do that.
It will.
Yeah. They're gonna have to pass something in the,
I don't know how many Tennessee fans are gonna be there to do that. Right. That might be tough considering it's in Columbus. And they're gonna have to get through a lot of security guards and other Ohio State fans.
A lot of mace.
A lot of mace would be sprayed if that were to go down.
That would be awesome. I feel like there's going to be a lot of Indiana fans at Notre Dame, though, and that'll be
hard to get tickets, though. That's the most expensive ticket.
True. Yeah,
really hard to get a ticket there. They're not trying to sell them. Those Notre Dame fans aren't. All right, boys, let's get to Dax Dog. We gotta get a move on here on our.
Should we? I could always say,
why don't
Dax Dog?
Well, I was gonna say, why don't we do this? We're all home next week for a minute for the holidays.
Yes.
Why don't we take some time out while we're home next week? We'll get a short little episode in there. We'll talk about some of the other big bowl matchups, and we can do Dax top dog for the season.
Perfect.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah, do it another time.
All right, boys. Well, it's been good. A great episode. Got to get it out there. I legit had Silas, my dog Bosman. He was wondering. He said, "Hey, are you going to talk about how Oregon got shafted?" And they did. I totally agree. So we appreciate the listeners and the watchers out there. We'll link that interview. It's actually pretty cool. It's a quick Spotify thing when we talked to Coach Todd Dodge on my show 127 ESPN on Spotify. It was pretty insightful of this, all the guys that are playing against each other. So, all right, boys, meeting of the minds. We'll get a win tonight.
Stay tuned for a few seconds after we sign off here, fellas. I got a little outro for us tonight.
Perfect. Sounds good.
All right, let's do it. See you.
Peace out, fellas.
Shots out his age, every kiss on my hand. You get smoked on the same day.